Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
Activate ejection seat.
Okay, I will start the ejection seating.
Wait, what?
10, 9,
Wait, what?
8. No, I'm just joking.
So then guys, you may have owned your Mercedes-Benz for a while, or maybe you've just picked one up. Well, in this video today, I'm going to cover 10 insane tips and tricks on your Mercedes that you should be using today. And some of them are so well hidden, like the one you just saw, that I didn't even know existed until a few weeks ago. So I've been reading the manual cover to cover and trying to find out the most hidden ones you can possibly find. And there are a couple that I only recently just found. So we've got 10 to go through today. Let's start with number 1. So starting at number 1, we're starting off with a very easy one with the Mercedes Me buttons in the roof. So one is called Mercedes Me and one is the SOS button. Basically, in a nutshell, in the event of emergency, if you need to ring police, ambulance, fire, mountain rescue, lifeguard, just like if you need help at all, literally there's a little switch under here. If you tap that button, it's basically going to ring the SOS team, effectively almost dialing like 999 or 112. Now as well, on top of this, there is a Me button on some cars. Basically that is a roadside assistance or breakdown cover. Say you need to ring them, for example, if you had like a tyre puncture at the side of the road, or for anything else, you can just press that and it'll ring them. Now this also does transmit the car's location as well, only of course when you press these buttons and as long as you've got it enabled on Mercedes Me. But again, it can just help kind of pinpoint where you are on a map, just in case you are a bit stuck. But yes, that's those things, so let's move on to number 2. Now up next is backing up your Mercedes. So if you didn't know, you can actually back up all of the settings on your car and restore them to your new car. Although that does depend, you do need to make sure it's the same multimedia system. So command to command or MBUX to MBUX. So say you are purchasing a car and it has the same multimedia system, just grab a memory stick and if applicable, get a USB-C adapter. The link for one of these is down below in the description. And yeah, quite simply plug it into the relevant USB or USB-C ports. So I'm just going to plug mine in that one there. And then on the actual screen itself, just press the home button, go all the way across to settings or system, depending on the model of Mercedes you have, and then go all the way down to the bottom and you'll see a thing that says system backup. Go in here and then from here you can export or import. So if I export this, do you want to continue? Yes. And then after a few minutes it will have backed up your entire settings, ambient lighting and all that sort of thing that you would save typically throughout the ownership of your car. And then when you get the new one, you can plug it in and restore all of your settings. Now for this next one, I bet you guys didn't know this. This is a hidden feature that not many people know about. And to be fair, it's only going to be used in emergencies, and to date I haven't had to use this, but it's there as a precautionary measure. So it involves a thing called a soft reset. Now a soft reset is basically just like a restart. It's almost like going to Windows or a Mac or something like that and just rebooting it. Now you can do this just natively in the car by locking it and leaving it for 10-15 minutes and then it'll reboot all the systems, which you'll see when you turn it on each day. It'll reboot. But you can do an instant reboot and it's called a soft reset. And it's done by a hidden combination of buttons down here in the middle. So if you hold start and tel both at the same time and just keep holding for a few seconds and the whole screen will go blank just like that. And then literally it just reboots with the Mercedes-Benz logo. There's a very quick way to reboot it just in case of any issues or anything like that. Now a few of you in the comment section have asked, what do I do if my key battery is out of power, if it's dead? How do you start the car? Well, you can still do it on most Mercedes-Benz. And the way to tell if you can, around in this area here in the middle, if you have a look, it's usually in a cup holder or something like that. In this car, it's on the right-hand cup holder. In there is a picture of a key with like some kind of Wi-Fi symbols. That's the emergency key starting procedure. And just to demonstrate this, of course, I've got the key for this car here, and just to prove it works, can unlock and lock the car. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the battery out of this key to really make this key dead. So let me just take the battery out the side. There we go. And as proof, I'm going to put the battery up there and just put the cover back on. Yeah, no power in there at all. Now it does take a little bit longer to start, so it's usually just a few extra seconds. Now I think the chip for this is in the very top of the key, just above the lock button. So I'm going to pop that in there facing down. I'm going to start it. So it takes just a little bit longer, so I'm going to click the button now. And then any second, with no battery. Look at that. Just going to turn that off. So yes, you can start the car with the key without a battery, but of course it does need to be in that specific area. And I said it looks like this symbol here, so just locate that in the car and then you know how to start it in an emergency. So then guys, for my next tip and trick is make use of the limiter. Not all manufacturers can do this. However, on Mercedes-Benz cars, when you use the limiter, it actually stops you going over that speed even when you go down the hill as well. So I've got the limiter currently set to 15 miles an hour, which you can see on the screen. My foot is actually flat to the floor at the moment. However, as I go down this hill, my foot is flat to the floor. It will not go over. Some manufacturers do actually let you go over that and it will just beep at you, but no, in Mercedes, it will keep you under that speed limit on what you've set on the dashboard. Now for this next one, guys, is a bit of troubleshooting. So you connected your phone up and the contacts aren't syncing across. Well, in Mercedes-Benz cars, number one, make sure if you have like an Android, for example, that the contacts are on the phone itself. If they are stored on the SIM card or even your Google account, they will not copy across to the car, so make sure they're on the actual phone. However, if you have an iPhone like me, a common problem I have seen sometimes is that when you connect your phone up, for example, so I'll just get this connected now, if this message pops up, allow contacts, say you pressed don't allow, or say you had a call come through at that exact time and that message disappeared, the contacts will never work with this pairing. Even if you went into the MBUX and tapped on I and turned on sync contacts here, it will not work. You have to do it in that initial menu. So the way to get around this is just forget the device and just make sure you do the same on the car. So I'm just going to delete this off here very quickly. And then you basically start again from scratch, but just make sure that that allow button is pressed, especially on iPhones, because iPhones, I guess, can be a little bit funny with getting a contact synced. But it is an automatic process. If you have an iPhone, just make sure you tap pair and allow everything, allow contacts, and then that will then sync, and then all of your contacts will go through to the car. Now for this next tip and trick, guys, is something that's been requested quite a bit in the comment section, and that's how you can start your multimedia system silently, as in when you get in the car each day, to not have the radio start. Now, as this is a very complex multimedia system, you know, it houses your sat-nav, your radio, music off your phone, and all sorts. You've got your telephone calls, settings, various other things as well. It does, of course, need to be on. Now, you could argue, yes, I could just have the whole thing switched off like this, but then if you get a phone call, you're not going to be able to accept that. Your phone will ring, but then it won't come through the car because, well, you switched it off. So how would you start the system silently without the radio in the morning? Well, that is quite easy. So if I switch this back on, basically all you've got to do is just make sure that it starts on something that doesn't have any audio. So for example, I've got it on radio at the moment, and yes, it would normally be playing, but I've got it turned down for this video. If you go on to media, just leave it on one of the USB ports, for example. So I doubt you probably have anything plugged in overnight or anything, but for example here, if I leave it on the one of the USB ports, basically when you turn it on next time, it's going to start completely silently with no radio. So that is one way around, and it's kind of also a way of turning the radio off, I guess, because sometimes I've had a few comments asking about how you can turn the radio off. If you're on the radio tab, it's going to be on. So if you leave it on media with SD card or USB, as long as you've got nothing plugged in, then it won't play anything. So that is one way around on that one. Now, if you have an electric car, did you know that with pre-entry climate control, of course you can preheat or pre-cool the interior, but it also actually does some things to the battery as well. So this is especially important as the winter months set in. You might want to be making use of this more. So make sure you use your pre-entry climate control because it will actually preheat the battery as well. So that'll give you as much range as possible, just kind of getting as close to the manufacturer's kind of WLTP that's printed in the brochures and things like that. So make sure you use pre-entry climate control because apart from keeping you nice and warm and toasty on the inside, it'll make sure your battery gets the same treatment as well. So for my next one then guys, is how you can copy a profile. So basically if you have set up all of your settings, so I've got all mine set up here with red moon lights, so blue and red, and I've got the progressive dials here, maybe all my EQ settings are the way that I want them, but there may be some similarities to the other person who might be driving and you might want to just copy the settings across. It's very easy to do. All you need to do is just go to the profile selector on the top right hand corner, and on this page here will show you all the profiles that you've made on your car. So all you do is just go to create profile, then give them a nice profile picture without being too rude. Let's go for the rockstar look and say the person's name was Tom, for example. Just pop that in. This is the screen that you want here. So factory settings will literally start the profile from scratch from factory settings. But if you do current settings, then that will load all the settings from your current profile and copy it across to the new one, i.e. on this one, Tom. So tap continue, then just follow the steps all the way through and it will create a new profile with all of the settings on the currently loaded profile. So for the final one today then guys, is how you can adjust the volume for specific things on the multimedia system. So let me explain. This is for things like, if you think of all the things the multimedia system can make in terms of sound, you've got things like your phone, sat nav, then you've got radio or music playback. All these different things have their own individual volume, and you basically adjust the volume on the steering wheel or kind of in the middle here when it's making a sound, and that will adjust that individual thing on its own. So let me give you an example. If I get some music playing, for example, so just get that going. There we go, that's playing. And then if I go to the sat nav screen and let's just type in a destination for, I don't know, the next town across.
Your route is being calculated.
And there we go, that's her talking on top of the music. So just to show this in action, I'm just going to move the volume button up and down. You can hear the music going up and down like that, which is fine. But if I then mute and unmute the sat-nav just to get the sat-nav to specifically talk at that moment in time, so I'm going to mute it and then unmute it, I'm then going to change the volume.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
See, I'm changing the sat-nav voice because it's making sound at that time, but then it doesn't change the music. So it changes one of these few things that you see on the screen here. When you adjust the volume, it will adjust the volume for the sound that's making sound at that current moment in time. So there we have it then guys, that is 10 insane tips and tricks for your Mercedes-Benz. However, if you want to know more tips and tricks, check out this playlist here, as this one has over 100 and this video today has just added to that. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Huge shout out to these guys, Sandown Mercedes-Benz, as they help provide access to all these awesome cars you see in the videos. Until next week, see you then.